Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and I have got some books. May is the month of big book sales in Calgary, and so there's one that's literally called the Calgary Reads Big Book Sale. Calgary Reads is an organization that promotes early childhood literacy, and the other one I can't remember the name of, but it's sponsored by or a fundraiser for an organization that helps people post trafficking. So they're both great. I've been to both. The books are all mixed up now, so I have no idea which I got from which, but it doesn't really matter. And then I got a couple of new ones just off Amazon. And so I'm gonna hopefully quickly-ish, go through those so it's not too rambly. I haven't read any of these, I don't think, so I won't have very much to say, but I need to get this filmed today so I can organize these books, so I don't just have random stacks of books sitting around my apartment waiting for me to get my act together. So this book, Briefly Perfectly Human, is by a death doula, Alua Arthur. I know I've seen her interviewed on YouTube, but I can't for the life of me remember by who. Because that's how I found out about her. And so this book was a pre-order that sounded absolutely fascinating. I've read one other book by a death doula, and it's just such an interesting perspective on life and the end of life and what that experience could be. In an ideal situation, obviously you don't always get to decide, but there are times when people can make certain decisions about what they want, and it does help you to look at life a bit differently. So I'm looking forward to this one. I forgot this one. I got this on a whim, Step by Step Irish, because I'm reading James Joyce, and this is by him. So I'm working my way through Ulysses, which is going to be like a multi-month process. But he wrote this book about the Irish language, and I have no idea if it's any good. I mean, it's James Joyce, so is it going to be bad? Probably not. But yeah, I don't know. It's a thing. Where did this, oh yeah, I got this from a Free Little Library. So I sometimes I pick up magazines from Free Little Libraries if they're like, because they're outrageously expensive these days. Like, they can cost as much as a book sometimes. But I use them for collage, so apologies to the magazine, but it will get cut up eventually. And it just made me think it's a very French style of photography that I don't have a lot of. So yeah, could be fun. Might do a thing with that eventually. I've been doing the, you know, the New York Times little like games and things, and they've got excuse me, the regular crossword and then the mini crosswords. I've tried a couple of the regular ones. I do the mini ones with my dad, so we live in different provinces, but we sometimes talk about them, just texting. And so I got this because we're going on a holiday in the fall, our whole family, just for about a week. It'll be lovely. Yep, somebody started to fill in this one. Oh well, it's fine. I think this was, yeah, it was at one of the book sales. I can't remember which one. Anyway, then I got, now, art people don't yell at me, because I might use some of these for collage too. But I may read them first and then use them for collage, or I may not use them for collage. I don't really know. But I got a George O'Keeffe Black Iris print to put on my wall. And then at this book sale, there was this little book of 100 flowers. And it's literally just like, oh man, so beautiful. 100 different George O'Keeffe flowers. I mean, what's not to love about that? So I got that. There were a couple of these other little books. One of Rodin, one of Toulouse-Lautrec. I don't know what I will do with these, but I mean, that's cool. Yeah, no idea. And then today I got Impressionism and Post-Impression. So I've been looking for books about both Impressionism and Expressionism, not just using collage, but because I actually want to learn how to like, I know I like these styles the best, but I don't know how to describe why I like these styles the best. So this book has some issues in the corner. So I've gotten a couple of books to introduce me to maybe some new artists that that are less well known than your, you know, Monet and Van Gogh and Degas and all those folks. Pizarro. Cool. I like that one for some reason. But see, I couldn't explain to you why I like that one. I have no idea. Factory on the Oise at Pontius. Watercolor over graphite on paper. Yeah, no idea. It's giving me a vibe. I don't know. I actually also don't know if I've ever used the word vibe before in my life. May never happen again, so, you know, savor the moment, I guess. Oh god, I'm so weird. Okay. There, see, there's some Degas, which I also really like. He did like his ballerinas. But there are other Impressionist artists that I'm just not so familiar with that I might also like. Like, that's cool. So this. Who's Pierre Bonnard? I have no idea. Why have I never heard of him? So yeah, I've got that. I've got this big lug. Impressionist Masterpieces. These are both actually from the National Gallery of Art in Washington, of all places. So this is one of these giant books that like talks about the art with pictures next to it, and then it's got some big color prints. And so this one I may actually like sit down and read one day, or I just may go, oh, I like this painting. Maybe I'll read about this cathedral. This is Monet, right? Yeah, okay. Looks Monet. Like, see, I can tell it looks Monet, and I can tell this looks Cezanne, but I don't know what about it makes it look Monet. It just does. I don't know. So I need to, at some point in my life, learn how to talk about art and not sound like an idiot. That would be lovely. So that's my brilliant plan. Well, plan is a bit generous, maybe. And then I got this one on Expressionism, the Concise Encyclopedia of Expressionism. And it's kind of similar. It's got the paintings and then some text about the artist. And I think it has less material explaining the art piece, and it's more just like a mini biography of certain artists. But, you know, that could be interesting. And if I find people I'm interested in, like this one. I like this one. Why do I like that one? I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes I like weird. Yeah, so, and then it goes back to black and white after a while. And, oh, yeah, there's some more. Okay, so at the back, it's got more about the actual artwork. That's cool. Interesting. So I may have to read that and just be a little bit more educated about art at some point. And then I got one about Frida Kahlo because, I mean, if you're in an art section, getting books about artists, you have to get one about Frida Kahlo, no? I mean, she's incredible. She's one of my all-time favorites. Just, ugh, love it. Okay, so those are the books I got about art. Then I got, and I may have to go back for more, because, so today was the volunteers could go and like as the early bird sort of shoppers. You still pay for everything, obviously, because it's a fundraiser, so of course you do. Nobody, I think, is debating that, but the volunteers get to go a day early. So that was fun. So that's why I've spent the last couple, well, not the only reason why I spent the last couple of weekends volunteering. It's also just a fun thing to do. And then I got a book called Literature as Opera. So also on my list of things to do before I die is learn how to talk about music without sounding like an idiot. And, you know, I've only worked at the opera for 15 years now. You'd think I would know how to talk about it. Do I know how to talk about it? I do not. Like, I know the names. I don't know how many Verdi operas I've done now, but like a bunch. Have I done most of these? Handel, nope. Mozart, yes. Donizetti, yes. Verdi, yes. Tchaikovsky, yes. That was fun. Haven't done Salome, but I have done other Strauss operas. Britain, yeah, not overly fond of him. Don't shoot me. Some of his fans are like enthusiastic. So this is specifically about books that are turned into operas, and it's published in 1977, which is relevant because I have done some, like Moby Dick and Little Women, that are more recent than that. Turn of the Screw didn't make the cut, don't know why. But I don't think that's, I think that's prior to 1977, but maybe it isn't. I don't know. I wasn't doing operas in 1977. So yeah, there are some more recent ones that have been based on books that are pretty cool, and that would be kind of interesting for a book like this to expand upon if it was ever to have, you know, a second edition or something. But I thought this was an interesting way to segue into a book about music, because I've read quite a lot of books about books, and I've read a lot of books, and like have I read The Marriage of Figaro? I feel like I have. Oh, Carmen's not in here either, but you don't want to read the novella Carmen. It's, unless you're a really dangerous woman sort of man, then you might like the Book of Carmen. But women are not going to enjoy it because it's downright abusive, and the man doesn't ever take responsibility for his own actions. Everything's the woman's fault. Go figure. Anyway, tangent. Macbeth, I've read. Onegin, I've read Onegin before doing that opera. Wojciech, I've never done. That would be interesting. Oh, Lucia de Lammermoor, I read before doing that one, because it was by Walter Scott, The Bride of Lammermoor, which actually is a really good book. So anyway, I thought that would be an interesting way to get into reading books about music, because I've listened to a lot of music. Obviously, you can't work at an opera and not listen to music, but I don't know how to talk about it. I don't have a music degree. I have a stage management degree and a library degree. So books I can talk about, plays I can kind of talk about, music not so much. So this is step one. This was my last, the reason I mentioned this was from the volunteers first day, is because you have a limit of 20 books that you can buy. And this was number 20 in my collection. So I might go back and look at what the other books they have there on music, because they've got a whole section, which is pretty cool. I got this, the 52 Lists Project, a year of weekly journaling inspiration. So I'm a terrible journaler. I've spent my whole life wishing I could be a good journaler, and then I started journal, and I last like somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 months if I'm lucky. Like, I suck at it. But I have a couple of books, notebooks, that are like your life in a list of books, which I can totally do. I can fill in lists of books I like that say something about me. So I got this book. It's apparently organized by season, and thought, it might be fun just to list. I might not do all of them. I might not do any of them. I have no idea. I'm a very, like, I don't know what's happening today. We'll see. But I got it because I thought maybe if I was going to take an attempt at journaling again, this might be the best way to do it. And then I got a bunch of, so many books. Where are, I have some books in Arabic somewhere. I don't know where in the stack they are, but I got these two in French. So this is, I think, an Algerian author, and this is an Icelandic author. And I do need to read a book by an Algerian this year, and I have an English one, but I might read this at some point. Possibly not this year, because I'm really slow at reading French, and I'm still working on Madame Bovary, and I'm slow, like really slow. And I can read really fast in English, not so in French. And then this is like an Icelandic sort of, I think, thriller sort of situation. Was the impression I was getting. Yeah, a psychological thriller. It sounded kind of interesting, so yeah. And I've never read her, but you know, if I can discover a new Icelandic thriller writer that I like, that's exciting. Okay, and then I got, so I've been on a classics reading streak lately. So I got some of those. Oh, segue. These are the Arabic books I got. This is, which way is up? This way is up. A book who I looked up who this author was. I think she's also Algerian. I just used Google Translate for this. Yeah. Algerian. It's so far above my reading level, it's not even funny. But it's like a wish list book. Someday I'll be able to read. Like, look at that. It's a whole book in Arabic. Like, I do realize they print them every day, but it's so cool and hard to get in Canada. And then I got these ones. So this is A Little Princess, and this is Huck Finn. And they're English Arabic, which is still so far above my reading level. Like, my reading level in Arabic is C-spot run. This is my reading level. I'm so inept in Arabic, but these looked like a lot of fun. I haven't read Huck Finn or The Little Princess in a million years. So I thought it might be a fun way to revisit them when I get to this level. So this is my wishful thinking pile. Then I got Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, because there was a discussion, I think it was on YouTube, about another book that I had found disappointing, that a lot of people found disappointing. And this book kept being, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was, but this book kept being brought up as a better version. And I haven't read The Name of the Rose yet. But I thought, okay, it could be fun. An intellectual adventure story. I can get behind that. The Count of Monte Cristo, I do love, so sure. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll like it, but I got it anyway, just for fun. Then I got Henry Miller's Tropic of Cancer, because it's been on my list. Oh, my phone just did a fun thing again. It's been on my list for ever. Well, not ever, but you know, good long while. And was not published for a while, or was censored for a while, because it's quite sexual, apparently, in nature. So, you know, read at your own risk, I guess. But anytime anybody tells me I shouldn't read a book, I'm like, oh, really? And why are you making this decision for me? So I get a little, not defensive about that, but like, as soon as somebody else starts making decisions about what is appropriate for me to read, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna have to find that out for myself. Thank you very much. Then I got some more Poe, The Fall of the House of Usher, because I got A Tales of Mystery and Imagination a little while ago, but I've read that before, but years ago. And I don't know if any of these tales overlap. They might not. I have no idea. But I've never read The Fall of the House of Usher. Never read it. And so this is going to get added to, like some of these poems I've read. This is going to get added to my Gauntlet November collection, I think. And then I got another George Eliot book, because I've read a couple of hers now and really liked them. Middlemarch I liked. The Mill and the Floss I liked better, but I like them both. They're fun. They're very, like, pastoral with social commentary. And written by a woman at the time who wasn't like exactly a respectable career choice. Which is kind of cool. So yeah, I don't know if I'll like this, but I like the other two books of hers that I've read, and I've got Silas Mariner, I think. Yeah, I do. So I'll read some more of her. May read everything eventually, I don't know, but this sounded interesting. Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. I tried reading his The Movable Feast once, years ago, and couldn't stand it. I just couldn't, didn't do a thing for me. I can't even remember if I finished it. But I decided, okay, maybe it's time to try one more time with Hemingway and see if I can get into him. So I got this one. Apparently it's downright depressing, so good times all around. We'll see how that goes. And then I was reading Faust. Well, listening to and then reading Faust lately. And I like the story, but the verse-to-verse writing translation situation just spectacularly does not work for me. I don't like it. So I got this because it's just a straight up novella, really, I guess. And caused a sensation. So, sure. And so I wanted to try Goethe again because I know he's so well respected in German literature. And I didn't know if the reason I didn't like the writing of Faust was just because of the translation and the whole verse-to-verse situation, which I didn't think was a good idea. So, take 2. And then I got some books about plants and things. So, theoretically, this month I am still doing the Witch Sisters deck study for the Lisa Pepez deck study that she does a new deck every 2 months, I think. I've been a bit delinquent the last about 3 or 4 weeks, but I will get to it. So these are 2 more books I bought for that, because, so the first book of Scottish folklore by Danielle Ellison I got was really good. It's a retelling of just Scottish myths and legends and things. Well, myths may be a bit grand of a term. Legends may be more accurate, but it was very, very cool. Irish mythology. So I wanted to try this next and see if I liked it just as much. And then I'd gotten Ireland's Trees and really enjoyed that by the same author. Here, so I got Ireland's Wild Plants, Myths, Legends, and Folklore, which sounds very much up my alley. So those I'll probably read or attempt to read this month. We'll see if that happens. This is The Anatomy of a Rose, Exploring the Secret Life of Flowers. And basically, this is a person I haven't heard of who's written a lot before, writing about plants. Like, it's essays about different aspects of plants. The premise sounds kind of interesting. It's got, I think, pretty good Goodreads reviews, which I don't always take into consideration because sometimes my tastes are just are not going to align with the Goodreads reviewers. But sometimes it's useful if you want to know more about what a book is, sort of what it's like. And this one sounded pretty interesting. So, essays about plants. I got The Story of More by Hope Jowrin. She wrote Lab Girl, both phenomenal books. This one I have read before, and I got it because I think my dad will like reading it, so I wanted a physical copy. The subtitle is How We Got to Climate Change and Where to Go From Here. It is not an optimistic book, so I know sometimes authors like Jane Goodall really try to be hopeful. This one isn't. It really, it makes you want to punch up a politician or a businessman. Like, it's not, it's not outright pessimistic, but it's practical in a way that's like, yeah, we need to get more cars. Okay, if it suddenly looks much darker, it's because I'm starting to lose the light and my phone died. But what can you do? So anyway, what I think I was saying was that there are things in this book that make me go, well, that's not going to happen. Like, she talks about needing to get all the cars off the road. And I don't have a car, so I don't have a problem with that. But, like, you're not going to get all of Calgary to get the cars off the road. It's just not going to happen. Our public transit system stinks. Like, it's... So, yeah, like, everything she says is good. And I'm inclined to think she knows what she's talking about. I'm just not very optimistic about our future after reading this book. So there's that. Okay, then I got Exploring the Pagan Path. Oh, it's really, really dark. Hang on. I turned an overhead light on. There might be some glare and fun things like that, but doing the best I can here. So, Exploring the Pagan Path, Wisdom from the Elders. It's got a whole list of people, most of whom I've never heard of. but I think I've heard of this book before. I feel like it's something that's come up at some point. And it's got basically, it seems like samples of writing from a whole bunch of different people. So I'm kind of interested in that. Like to see, maybe I'll find something I like and a new author to explore. I'm not really sure. Oh, I've read this one before too, Psychic Witch. I wanted a physical copy though, because I want to actually read it, not with the audiobook, because I found I didn't focus well enough on the audiobook for this one for some reason. I just felt like I needed a actual thing, which maybe is a bit ironic for Psychic Witch. But oh well. And then I got The Fairy Faith in Celtic Countries, which I feel like I've also heard of before, but I can't remember where. And I've lost the ability to speak tonight, so that's good. But it's a collection of stories from Celtic countries. Examines how the fairy spirituality survived. It is written from a mystical perspective, not a academic perspective. And sometimes that can lead to like wishful thinking and making connections that are imaginary. So that's possible. But I thought it might be interesting to read anyway, just to find out what it's about, because I swear I've heard of it before. I don't know why I can't remember where I've heard of these books, but I can't. Okay, and then I've been listening to a podcast called Data Over Dogma, which is by a biblical scholar and a friend of his, I guess. And they talk about the Bible, and the scholar explains it to the other guy. And it's really fun to listen to. It's fascinating. I love it. So I've been like sort of binge listening to that. One of the guests they had on was Bart Ehrman. I have to clean the cover of this book. That's gross. Jesus Before the Gospels. So he was one of the scholars who was on. He's written a bunch of books, and I found 2 of them today. So I want to read How Jesus Became God, because that wasn't always the case. And then this was one of the other ones I wanted, Jesus Before the Gospels. The subtitle is How the Earliest Christians Remembered, Changed, and Invented Their Stories of the Savior. And then the other book of his I got is A Brief Introduction to the New Testament. So this podcast, Data Over Dogma, the guy, Dan McClellan, who's one of the hosts, has an Instagram, not channel, whatever they're called, account as well. And he's talked about a translation of the Bible that he particularly likes that I can't remember the name of. But I want to get it, not because I'm interested in becoming Christian again, because I'm not, but I'm still interested in the ideas behind it. And I feel like now that I have more distance emotionally from the things that fundamentalism did to me, I can sort of think about this more objectively. So what I want to do eventually is get that updated translation of the Bible that scholars seem to think is the most accurate translation, and read that again. But there are a couple of books I want to read first, and his introduction to the New Testament is one of them. There's another introduction to the Old Testament by a different author that I may also get, just to provide some context that they don't teach you in Christian schools. So like what the Greco-Roman world was like, what the early Christian traditions are, because I tell you, they're sure different than today. Like, the people who wrote the New Testament did not believe the same things that Christians today do. It's wild how different things are. I mean, it's not really surprising, it's 2,000 years ago, but like a lot has changed in 2,000 years. So it talks about ancient Judaism, the traditions of Jesus, some stuff about the Gospels according to various disciples, the historical Jesus, and then some of the other books like Acts, and it gets into some of Paul's letters and just gives you, like, puts them, I think, in their time and place. It contextualizes them, as I understand it, is what this book does. And, and the oppression of women in early Christianity. That's a fun subject that I sure didn't well, I guess I kind of did learn about it in Sunday school, in that we were explicitly taught that we were supposed to be subservient to men. So that's fun. And then different other early Christian beliefs to do with other books of the Bible. Oh, also this podcast has a whole, is this the guy who wrote a book on Revelation? No, I think it was a different guy. So this podcast had a guy on who wrote a book about Armageddon. And I want to read that one too, because the way beliefs have changed about the end times between then and now, unbelievable. Like, they're not even recognizable as the same thing. So yeah, and then I got Jesus and John Wayne, and I've heard of this book a lot before. So I grew up in a very white evangelical, pretty extreme version of the faith in Canada that has been very influenced by American fundamentalism. I actually wrote a book about that too. And I wasn't going to buy this book, and then I got it at this book sale because it was like $4, so why not? Because even in Canada, even if we don't want it to be the case, American politics affects us so much that you kind of have to care. Like, they broadcast the election here. They don't broadcast it in the same way as they do on American channels, and thank God for that, because I started watching election coverage on, it was like CBS or something, and it was hilarious. They were drowning in flags. It was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen. But the point is, everything that happens in American politics and American law does affect Canada, and because the Supreme Court is so conservative, and because these fundamentalist Christians are gaining so much power under Trump, and it's getting so extreme, I kind of feel like we have to care, even if I'd rather not have to care, because these people are bananas. They have a lot of power, and I don't love it, but I want to learn more about it. Like, I don't love that that's the case, but because I grew up with people who, if they were American, would very much be like this, I'm going to read this one. And then I got When God Was a Woman. The story of, so in the Bible, there are actually a lot of gods and goddesses. One of the goddesses that features prominently in the Bible is Asherah. And so this one talks about, it's I think a very old book that has not been, oh, I see. Somebody's actually like broken the spine. Ah, good, and it's very dried out. Good, so it's in very good shape. I don't know how academic this is. She says she's taught art and art history at a university level, but I think that's as an instructor of art. But I still think this will be an interesting book, so we'll see. There are a couple others I want to read, like When God Had a Wife, which kind of touches on the same subjects, which is by a biblical scholar. But this was the one I found, and I thought, yeah, it sounds interesting. And I do want to, what does it say? Astarte, Isis, Ishtar. Yeah, I'm not really convinced they're all the same god. I don't think there's a lot of evidence for that. But, kind of interested in, oh, for goodness sake, the spine on this book is such bad shape. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna need to break up my book glue. Good, okay. So that's exciting. Where's the table of contents here? Who was she? I think there were probably many, but particularly, I'm interested in, actually none of these, Astarte, Isis, or Ishtar. I'm interested mostly in Asherah, because she was the Canaanite deity that was mostly considered, I think, to be the consort of El, the god of, well, one of the gods of the Bible, but that's a different topic. So anyway, I want to get into this, but I will have to do some book surgery first. So those are the books I got. If I go back and get more books about music and stuff, I'll add that on. Okay, so I did go back to the book sale today, because my biggest problem in life is that I don't have enough books, clearly. So I got a few things. I'd had a couple of books like these years ago that I got rid of. These are Norton scores for anthology listening. And I thought it might be fun to try, because it's got the different rows for all the instruments, and I'm used to reading a piano vocal score, which is all of this sort of compressed into what the pianist plays during rehearsal and what the opera singers sing, which is quite different. So I don't know if I'll keep these, but I'll experiment with them and maybe listen to a few new things I haven't listened to before, and then see if I like the experience or not. Then I got a couple other books just talking about music. So, A Music Lover's Guide to Great Recorded Performances. It says CD library, I mean, so it's a bit dated, but whatever. You can probably find a lot of these on Spotify, was the word I was looking for. So yeah. Oh, Hildegard von Bingen wrote a Gregorian chant. I totally didn't know that. Right, so I'll have to look that up. And then this one is different orchestral pieces specifically, and it just talks a little bit about both the author, and then has a little bit about each movement and that sort of thing. So that's an opera. So Symphony Number 1, Symphony Number 2, it just gives you a bit of information, and this is really what I was looking for. So I'm excited about that. Then, because I was there, I wandered around and also got this book, Hildegard of Bingen, A Saint for Our Times. This is by, I think, a priest of some sort. Now, I'm not either Catholic or Episcopalian. I'm not even Christian. But I find her an interesting character, and I thought maybe it would be interesting to read this one. I got, in the sort of spiritual section, I also got The Essential Kabbalah. This, I can't tell if he's Jewish, but this is about the Jewish Kabbalah, because I was reading, why is the name of the book gone out of my head? Something else about the tarot. Oh, Marcus Katz's book about the Thoth tarot. And he quotes a mystic, I think Israeli scholar, who explicitly says that the Hermetic Kabbalah is like a tiny bit of Jewish Kabbalah, and then the rest is imagination. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. Maybe I should learn about the original. So it does have, what is it? It started here. Sort of an overview. So the last book I read in the Kabbalah was sort of a sampling of the Zohar and some of the literary commentary on it, which was fascinating, but it wasn't really an overview of what people who believe in the Kabbalah believe. So I thought this would be pretty interesting. And it does have the Tree of Life, but it talks like things are labeled differently a little bit differently than the one that's used by Crowley and others who mapped it onto the tarot. So that'll be interesting. And then I got Tarot, the Divine Feminine. I need to clean this book off, but he's a Tibetan Buddhist who wrote a book about Tara, the Tibetan. She's sort of a female deity. She's one of the Buddhas. Or, well, there are a lot of ways to describe her, but I'm interested in learning more about her. I read one book about her so far. So I'll read this one too and see. It was a very academic book and it was a list of like praises to the tarots, the various, I think there are like 22 or 23 of them or something. Anyway, I don't know if this will be like a little easier to get into and understand more about her generally. Oh, it's got the praises for the tarots. Yeah, 21. Praise the 21 tarots. So that was in the other book I read, which is kind of interesting. But then it's got it starts with a bit of information about her. So got that one, and then I got Jane Goodall's Reason for Hope: A Spiritual Journey, which I thought might be interesting because I like Jane Goodall. I had little books, those little square, very thin books by her when I was a kid, like picture books for kids with, you know, one about chimpanzees and one about various other animals. So that was pretty cool. And so yeah, this is sort of her story, and I thought that might be interesting because I feel like I probably should know more about her. And then the last thing I got is Therese Hacken, not saying that properly, by Zola, because it's one of the books I'll read eventually when my French is better than it is now. So that's everything I got at the book sale, which should keep me covered for quite some time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.